Now, in one previous lesson, we introduced this concept of algebraic expressions, where we say these are expressions that are used to describe how certain calculations have got to be done and in what order they have to be done, okay? So basically, calculation must be done and some order must be followed. That gives us what we call algebraic what? Expression. Now we saw that there are times when these calculations are easily done when the words expression are first formulated into a mathematical expression. What we would like to look at now is how do we then evaluate these algebraic expressions? Suppose that the description is now made of how the calculation must be done and the order to follow. How do we then evaluate? How do we then find the value of these expressions? Okay, this expression which is giving us the description of how this calculation must be done. How do we then do the calculation actually? How do we carry out that calculation? That is what we would like to see, as I will be sharing with you right here on the screen some few questions that is going to guide us through this discussion of evaluation of algebraic expression. Now we say when we are evaluating or when we evaluate an expression, we choose or are given a value of the variable. The variable in this case is used to mean the unknown, the number which is not known, okay? Now, because we have an actual value, we can carry on or carry out the operations of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and what? And division in the expression using the given value. Like for example, here we have been given that A is -2, B is -1, C is 3, and D is 0. So we are supposed to determine the value of the following expressions. The first expression in this case is what? Is A squared times B, that is A squared. Just make this big enough. So yes, we have A squared squared. I've got to write this first. This is A squared and what? Times B minus 3C plus 5D. How do we then evaluate this? To evaluate this, we then substitute the actual value of these variables in the expression, and then we either add or we multiply or we divide or we subtract, and we get the final answer. Now, what is A squared? Well, just get this right away. Now, from here, instead of having A like that, we will be having A squared. That is, instead of having A squared, we will be having -2 squared. Now, notice that to avoid having problems, it's going to be safer for us to put the values that has got negative signs inside the bracket. This will help us when we are doing what? When we are evaluating, when we are multiplying, because when it's inside the bracket, it's a lot easier to see that the negative is part of the quantity to be squared. And now notice that B is also -1, so we can also put it right where? Right inside a bracket. Then we have -3C, -3C. Notice that the value of C is 3, so we have -3 times what? Times 3. Then plus 5 times D. That is 5 times 0. Now notice that any number times 0 is 0. So what this then means is, well, in our next step then, we'll be having this -2 squared, which gives 4. 4 times -1 gives -4, okay? Then now we'll be having what? negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. So we now have negative 4 minus 9 plus 0. What will this simplify do? This simplifies to negative 13. That is negative 4 minus 9. That is what we get. Now the next thing we want to look at is B. Now the equation for B is 7a, okay? 7a, but to make this relatively big, so we have 7a minus 6b, okay? 7a minus what? Minus 6b plus 5c squared plus 5c squared. So 5c squared will give us, let's see, notice that a is negative 2, and so we are going to write 7 times negative 2. As I indicated earlier, when the value is negative, make an effort to put it right inside the bracket. So this is 7 times negative 2 for A, minus what? Minus 6 times B. Notice that B in this case is negative 1. So we are going to have 6 times B, which is 6 times negative 1. Again, the negative 1 will be put inside the bracket. Then now we will have what? 5, that is plus 5c squared. Now notice that this 5 is supposed to multiply c squared. Now it's going to be safer for us to have this c inside the bracket so that it's easy for us to see how we are going to square it. So what is the value of c? The value of c is 3, and there is a square right there. From here, the next thing for us to get is, notice that 7 times negative 2 is what? Is negative 14. Then negative 6 times negative 1 is positive 6. Then 5 times 3 squared, that is 5 times 9. Well, that's where we are going to need a calculator right away. 5 times 9 is very much like 50 something, but let's see from the calculator. We are going to get, we want to find the value of 5 times 3 squared, which is what? 5 times 9, this is 45, yes, it's 45. So we are going to be having plus 45. Well, what's the value of this? Well, let's check. So what we are going to do is we will start with 14. Now notice that 14 is negative, okay? And because it's negative, you have to indicate it there. Now we have to add onto this 14.6, then later we also have to add 45. What do we get for this? We get 37. So yes, we write 37 as the final answer to the value of B. That is the evaluated expression in question 1B. Well, what's the next question? The next question is C. How are we going to handle C? Well, C has been given as 6ABC, all right? So let's have that. 6ABC plus BCD plus 12. This is what we would like to do, what? To evaluate. Let me just make it a little bit bigger. Right. Now from here, we would like to find the value of this expression. What's the value of A? Well, we will be having 6 times A. What is 6 times A? Well, the value of A, let's check, is negative 2. So we will be having this right inside the bracket. So it's going to be 6 times negative 2, okay? Then we will move on to B, which is what? The value of B is negative 1. So we say times negative 1. we also put it right inside the bracket. And the next thing for us is to find the value for C, which in this case is 3. So we say times what? Times 3. Notice that if some variable has a negative value, it is safer for you to put it right inside the bracket instead of having it outside the bracket. If it is having a positive value, it's fine, there is no problem. But on the overall, whether it is positive or negative, it's much safer for you to have them right inside the bracket. Now, we have to add this to BCD. B is -1, okay? So we are going to be having -1 right there. That is for what? That is for B. Then for C, we are going to have rather 3. So the value of C is 3. And what's the value of D? Well, the value of D is 0. Now, we again have to do what? We have to add 12 to this. So I've got to reduce the size now a little bit so that it will fall on one line, just to make things a little bit easier. Yeah, almost there. Right, yes, this is what we have. So then how do we continue from here? Well, we can continue with a little bit of ease, some relative ease. Notice that 6 times this value. Well, this is 2, this is positive, this is negative, negative, this will make it positive. So we can enter this whole thing in the calculator, or we first separate them. So this is 6 times -2 times -1. This is going to be positive 12 times 3 is 36. Now, we have -1 times 3 times 0. That gives 0 plus what? 12. What is this going to be? This is going to be 48. That's how we evaluate C. To evaluate the value of an expression is to substitute the value of the variables inside the expression. When you do that, you can rest assured that what's going to come out will be fine. The next thing we want to include or deal with is what? Is D. Now notice that in D we have A minus 5b squared, 5b squared, okay, then plus 4c, that is 4ac, right? So how do we simplify this? Well, what's the value for this? Is A minus, I missed the minus, let there be minus, yes. How do we simplify this? Well, notice that A is -2. So we would like to put this -2 right inside the bracket. Then minus 5 times B, notice that B is -1. So we are going to be having 5 times -1. As I indicated earlier, it's much safer to put the -1 right inside the bracket. Then now after that, we would like to include what? We would like to include 4ac, that is plus 4ac. So it's 4 times a, which is -2, that is 4 times what? 4 times -2, like that. The other thing you would like to include is the value of c, that is times c. And what's c? C is 3. How do we then simplify this? Well, even before we simplify it, make it relatively big, good size. So that it's clearly visible. Yes, this is what we have got right away. Now, how do we find the value? Well, sorry, this is 3. Okay, so how do we then find the value of this expression? Well, to find the value of the expression, this is -2. Let's write it there. is negative 2 minus 5 times negative 1 is going to be minus 5 times. Oh, okay. Notice that b is squared, so we would like to square this. Now, when we square this, well, this is going to be negative 1 times negative 1, which simplifies to positive 1. So we are still having here minus 5, because positive 1 times minus 5 is minus 5. No problem with that. Now, the next thing is to multiply 4 times negative 2, which gives negative 8 times 3 is what? Negative 24. So can we simplify this? Yes, this then simplifies to what? Notice that 2 minus 5 is negative 7. Negative 7 minus 24 is what? Is negative 31. That's the value for the expression. Then now, the next thing is to move to what? Is to move to E. Now, notice that for E, what's the expression? The expression is 36AB minus 31BC minus 31BC, okay, minus 31BC, then plus 2CD plus 2CD. Let's see what we can get from here. And just to make it relatively big, to some size, say 14 or slightly more. Yes. Now this is what we have. So this is 36. This is going to be 36 times A times B. So what's the value of A? Well, the value of A is negative 2 and B is negative 1. So A is negative 2. We would like to put right inside the bracket as negative 2 right here. Then times B, which is negative 1. Times negative 1. Yes. Then now we have minus 31 BC. Minus 31 BC. Already we have seen that B is minus 1 or negative 1. So we would like to put it right there. Times B, which is what? Negative 1. Then times C, which is 3. Okay. Times C, which is 3. Then from that we have plus 2CD. Plus 2 times C. Notice that C is 3 and D, which is what? Which is 0. So just to make it on one line, I'm going to reduce the size a little bit to 14. All right. 14 is not allowing, then 12, yes. Okay, so from here, our next step is to simplify. How do you simplify this? Well, let's see how we can simplify this. 36 times negative 2 is negative 72. Times negative 1 is positive 72. Yes. Then now minus 31 times minus 31 times minus 1 is minus what? It's going to be positive 31 times 3 is 93. So it's going to be 3. Then the next is 2 times 3 times 0, which gives 0. So we just add these 2 to simplify. So what's the value of 72 added to 93? Well, this is going to be very much like 165, but it's better we use calculator for that. This is plus 93, giving us 165, yes. So this gives us 165. So now the thing you notice here is that when you are required to carry out an evaluation of a given algebraic expression, the thing you must do is you pick the value of the variable and you put it right inside where that variable is in the expression. If the variable has a negative sign, then please put it inside the bracket. Then you simplify later using a calculator. If it has positive sign, it's fine, you can keep it like that. But as soon as you have noticed it has got a negative sign, make sure to put it inside the bracket. And yes, that's where we stop for this lesson.